What's up, you guys? I'm Chibi Joe, and I am here to do another improv movie review. And this time it is on A Dog's Journey. And immediately starting off, I did not realize this was a sequel until one of my close friends told me, hey, that was a sequel. And immediately saying also, I cried in this movie. It was very well done. It was just kind of like a sad, feel-good movie. Like, it was meant to make you cry. It was meant to make you feel emotions. Anyways, the point of saying in the beginning is when and these are gonna have spoilers in it. Duh. I didn't really feel like it was a sequel. Like, until the very end of the movie, whenever Daniel Quaid actually talks about what happened in the previous movie, essentially. I did not know that. And it was absolutely fascinating how well they made it into it's a sequel. I mean, it's a direct sequel from what I've been told. And they did it in a way that didn't feel like a sequel. That people just joining the story, essentially, can just listen to the story, and it was great. So, quick rundown from what I understand of the movie, of the previous movie. Kid gets a dog named Bailey. Bailey dies. Bailey comes back, and brings the owner and his now wife, Hannah, back together. So, that's all I know of the movie, just from what this movie has told me. So, the movie starts off with Bailey, this beautiful, I don't know what kind of dog it is, but just a beautiful, big, bushy dog. I mean, just gorgeous dog. And it has voiceover, which is the dog, and he's like, I love my boy Ethan, I love my girl Hannah. And they live on a farm. They're working on the farm. The voiceover is like talking about like, yeah, we love doing chores, even though I don't help that much. Yada yada yada. And then there you meet this woman named Gloria, which I have no idea whether or not any of these characters, except for Ethan and Hannah, are in the previous movie. So Gloria is just like this bitch failed singer or failing singer. I think she gets bigger as time goes on, but right now, because you really don't know. You don't hear much about her career, whether or not it got better or worse. You kind of assume it didn't, but you're never too sure. And so, she's like always on the phone trying to get gigs and stuff like that. And they have a new daughter, and she has a daughter named CJ, which is primarily taken care of by, the grandparents, Ethan and Hannah. And the dog Bailey kind of just hangs around, plays with CJ and plays with Ethan and stuff like that. Just enjoys being loved by this family. And he even says so as much. And it's really funny, like, hearing the dog commentary, like throughout it, he uses like dog terminology, like marking your territory, growling, whole nine yards, and like uses that in human situations, because there's the running thing that dogs, animals can sense your emotions by just the air around you, and so they go on and they're outside. Bailey Bailey and CJ are playing on the ground, and Gloria's on the phone. CJ kind of wanders off, and Bailey starts barking, trying to get Gloria's attention. Gloria kind of gets mad, gets really mad and annoyed with Bailey, just tells him to go away. So he has to hurry up, run over, and save CJ from this, like, pretty much untamed horse named Lioness. And Gloria gets mad. And, like, you could tell there was, like, growing tension between everyone. Because Gloria's not taking responsibility of her child. At the same time, the grandparents are worried that, about Gloria not being ready as a kind of like, you get the kind of gist that she may not be ready to be a mother yet and that she just needs help, which is not a bad thing. There's one really comment, like, I looked away for 2 seconds and immediately, like, Ethan's like more like 2 years. So, like, this is a reoccurring thing. Like, this is not a new thing. And, like, there was, like, a fight after this all happened. And, Gloria is, like, talking about what she wants and stuff like that. And Ethan, like, because Gloria's talking about maybe I should go back to Chicago and try to get my music career going. And Hannah, the grandma, she's like, well, how about CJ stays with us while you do that? That way you can focus on your career and CJ is well taken care of. And Gloria took that as, oh, so you don't think I could be a good mom. And Ethan and Hannah are like, that's not what we're saying. We're saying you want to work on your career so bad. How about you let CJ stay here? We can help take care of her. And you can focus on your career and get big. And CJ can still be well looked after. Because the music business is a hard business to get into. And Gloria, like, says, oh, so I'm not a good mom, and you're just going to take my kid so you can have the money. Like, she, like, is very delusional because, like, I guess the husband or the dad, and I'm not sure if it was the husband or not, but the dad died and left, like, a huge insurance settlement for CJ whenever she turns 18. And they were like, no, we're not here for the money. We just want you and her both taken care of. We're doing this out of love. And she, like, gets inside her head and she, like, inside her own head. And she's like, no, you just want the money. You just want to take everything away from me. She's all I got. And I can kind of get that, but at the same time, if she's all you got, then why aren't you watching her and being a good mom? Like, I'm not going to tell anyone how to raise their kids. I've never had kids myself. I helped my mom babysit kids. That's about as far as I've ever gotten. I would love kids, but I don't have any right now. And, I don't know. I feel like if the baby was born and my wife died, or my girlfriend died, the baby's mother died, I would do all I could. Now, granted, I would definitely have mom and dad help me or some person help me because I'm clueless. When it comes to taking care of, like, babies, toddlers, and stuff, I'm clueless. I can handle, like, 5 years and up because, like, even though the attitude will stink, I can handle that. I can handle that more than I can handle, like, little kids because it's like, it sounds like garbled mess to me whenever they talk. Now, granted, from what I've been told by people who are parents, that the garbled mess become completely full words because you know exactly what they want just from experience. But point is, Gloria was clueless and she didn't take advantage of the offer that the kid could be well taken care of, and uh, it was a very good offer from the grandparents. Now, granted, I also see Gloria's side, where Gloria's like, this is my baby. Why take her away from me? And I'm sure after losing Harry, I think was his name, Henry, something like that. I guess I could see why she would think that. Anyways, so they leave. And then it goes to them. You find out before all this that Bailey, I assume, has cancer. And you'll see that plays a trend in this movie. And Bailey ends up being put down in one of the saddest scenes and most real scenes I have ever seen. I said seen a lot in that sentence, but deal with it. So Bailey gets reincarnated again, this time as a female named Molly, a female beagle named Molly. Even though they showed, like, I've never seen beagle pups before, but I don't think they look like pugs. So I could be wrong. Anyways, Bailey comes back as Molly, a beagle, and gets adopted by a 11-year-old CJ. And you find out Gloria goes out with guys every night, stays out there. And drinks a lot, and there's a line in there whenever, after like a day or two of her having Molly, and she's like, I gotta tell mom that I have you. And so before she has the chance to, her mom basically just rips on her like, don't eat too much. Life is harder when you're fat. And the daughter just like looks at her like, what the shit? Why? Why did you say that? And daughter just said, just wondering when you would get back. Well, that evening they had a thunderstorm, and both Molly, with great commentary, and CJ were both afraid of the thunderstorm, and so they hid under the blanket and stuff. And then Gloria woke up and said, hey, I'm gonna be making breakfast. And CJ, to show you like CJ a little, like it's supposed to be like a funny joke, but at the same time you get like an insight of what her home life was. And she's like, wait, you can do that? And Gloria's like, oh, you're so silly. Like, and I knew in my head, I'm like, the guy's there. The guy is there, and she's trying to look impressive. And that's when Molly pokes her head out of the blanket. And so, like, the boyfriend, Paul, he's like, oh, I love dogs. And Gloria's like smiling, like, oh yeah. And CJ like, oh yeah, mom and me do too. Like, she completely manipulates the situation. I absolutely loved it. And so she takes Molly for a walk, and Gloria's like, you went behind my back and got a dog. And CJ pretty much just completely blackmails her mom. Like, yeah, parents are also supposed to like stay, not stay out so late and take care of their kids. She's like, Bailey or Molly is here to keep me company and keep me not afraid of being alone at night. You know, I'm sure my teacher would absolutely love to hear about how late you stay every single night from your 11-year-old daughter who you're supposed to be raising. And, yeah, so Gloria lets her keep Molly. And, the grandparents show up. They have some stuff from, CJ's dad, some leftover stuff. And they're like, hey, we just wanted to see CJ, see how she's doing, stuff like that. This is when she's older. She's like a teenager. She also has this friend named Trent, who also got a dog at the same time she did. And he's like a goody-goody two-shoe, doesn't want to break the rules, doesn't want to shake the boat. And I love Trent. I like this character. Because he feels so 90s, like if this movie was in the 90s, he would be like the exact same character. And I absolutely loved it. Just like the nerdy, good-hearted, like heart of gold, tries his best to be the best person he can be. He wants to make his parents proud. He wants to, I love those characters. They're so like simple and effective for what you were trying to do. And so like they're teenagers now. And you start getting like the idea of Trent. He enjoys, like he has a crush on CJ, and like he wants CJ to be the best person he can be. But anyways, point what I was trying to make was like the grandparents show up. They want to see CJ just to see how she's doing. Gloria goes like freaking nuts and says, "Oh, you just want to take my kid again? Well, you can't have her." And slams the door. And that's when Ethan sees Molly, and he's like, "I know that's you, boss dog." That's because that's what he called Bailey. And, Molly's going nuts. And so, yeah, it was great. It was a great, like, that's when I kind of, like, okay, so, like, after I learned it was a sequel, I'm like, oh, so that's how he knew Molly was boss dog, was he knew that Molly, or he knew that Bailey, freaking reincarnated. Like, that's how he knows about that. So, like, it was a nice little unknowing push towards, like, I just thought because Molly was doing things that Bailey did, then he just kind of connected it like, oh, wow, that's, like, exactly like Bailey. Like, that is uncanny. And so he just assumed, is that you, boss dog? And so it was really nice. And, so, like, it goes on, CJ ends up meeting this guy named Shane. He's just kind of a shady, kind of trashy looking guy. They end up started dating. And this is like kind of, because I've had an experience similar to this with one of my friends when she was dating. Now I didn't have a crush on her or anything like that, but I had a similar situation where she was on a date with this kind of shitty dude, and I walked up to her and I was like trying to talk to her about things that me and her talk about, and the guy was being a complete and utter tool and just being an asshole. Like, this friend was more like my sister. I would never have thought of dating her. And he would just make really rude comments to me. And then, like, whenever I'm like, hey, you should go see this or something like that, it's really good. And, like, he would make some comment like, oh, yeah, it's pretty lame. And she was like, yeah, it does sound kind of lame. And that's exactly what pretty much happened here. So CJ is kind of like her mom. She wants to be a musician. She wants to have a future in music. And so Trent saying, hey, you should perform at this talent show. And he's like, you're going to have to play in front of people anyways. Plus, the prize is $500. You could win, you can win some money. And he's like, oh, yeah, and CJ, you could play between the magician and the what was the other one? The jugular. I'm gonna say the jugular, the juggler, something like that. Some other kind of quote unquote lame, stereotypical talent show thing. And she's like, it does sound kind of lame, Trent. And he's like, come on, let's go. And CJ follows him. They're making out in the car. They go to a party. She finds out he's like a drug dealer. The entire party gets shut down by the police. Trent and then Molly's with them the whole time, this whole entire time. And that was like the first time he was really put into the reference, like, hey, Trent and this guy Shane is really growling at each other. Like, they're not growling outwardly, but inwardly you could definitely tell they were growling. And it was like a very nice way of explaining what's going on, because this is all from the dog's point of view. And so I don't expect it to be a traditional storytelling style, because it's not. Anyways, so after Molly is brought back together with CJ, thanks to Trent getting her from the pound, they start doing community service at this cancer treatment. And Molly starts seeing where this one dog, Brody, I think was the name of the dog. They kind of threw it to the side. They didn't really like focus on this dog, but this dog would smell cancer and would cross her paws, or his paws, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, and get a treat because that person had cancer. And so Molly's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And so she smells the scent of cancer and does the same thing. Again, bringing back up the cancer trend, which was a great, like almost an arc. Like, there was almost like a miniature arc just for this, like, just for cancer. And goes on and on. They finish the community service. Then one day at the community service, Shane shows up and like grabs her arm and stuff like that, and Molly bites Shane in the Achilles tendon, and he's like, I'm gonna kill that freaking dog. And then she comes home. Gloria's drunk, and her current boyfriend left. CJ was trying to tell her about Shane attacking her, essentially, and her mom just kind of laughed it off and said, well, did you provoke him or something? Did you deserve it? Essentially is what she was trying to say. And CJ's like, I'm taking my stuff and I'm getting out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. So she drives off. She's upset. Shane starts following her, and she wrecks her car, like flips it. I mean, like, just absolutely destroys the car. Molly dies in the car accident, and it gets reincarnated again to this big dog. I'm really terrible at knowing what kind of dogs they are. I love dogs, but I just don't know the breeds. So, like, he gets reincarnated as this big dog named Big Dog, and his owner is like this gas station attendant, or this gas station owner. And CJ comes walking in as she's traveling to New York City to start her music career, or attempt to start her music career. And so Big Dog recognizes her, and he does paw, which is what she trained her dog to do. When Bailey was Molly, Paw. So he did Paw. And she's like, well, very nice to meet you, big dog. And and like when she leaves the gas station, he tries following her. And either way, he's like, and then you get the sad thing where Big Dog's thinking, I don't know why CJ left me. Because he's never experienced that. Like Ethan knew exactly who he was when he reincarnated the first time. And then knew who he was reincarnated the second time. So I guess he just assumed that everyone knew who he was. And that CJ would know he's Molly. Well, it didn't end up that way. So he goes on. And he ends up dying. And he gets reincarnated into this very small dog named Max. And he's at this like adopt show. And he smells CJ. And when the lady's about to let him out to basically take him back to the shelter, he books it straight to CJ. And CJ takes Max back to the Adoptapalooza, I think it was called, or something like that. And the lady's like, well, he's gonna be put down tomorrow. And so CJ begrudgingly adopts Max. And they have this really big dog. CJ walks in, and they have a big dog named Duke. And CJ tells Duke, like, you guys are going to be good friends. And Duke is just this huge, probably a mastiff, I'd say. Like, just a huge dog. And then you got Max, who's like this little teacup dog. Like, I mean, just super small, just a purse dog. And so, like, her boyfriend comes home and he makes these sly comments about her music career. Like, he's like, yes, playing in front of 2 dogs is much better than just playing in front of 1. She's like, yeah, it's a great audience. And then you find out she walks dogs for a living. And then she meets Trent. Again, Trent just moved into the apartment buildings. And she's like, they have like a quick little like moment of like, wow, nice to meet you. And he's like, hey, my girlfriend's coming in soon. We should do a double date. And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. Double date doesn't happen because Max wants to try to get rid of Barry, I think his name was, because Max wants Trent in the pack. And so Max like craps on the floor, pees on his shoes, chews on his shoes, like does all of this stuff. And it all comes to like a head whenever Barry and her get into an argument, and he basically says, I don't think you're cut out for music. And she's just like, yeah, I'm done with you. Like, I'm tired of being stepped on by every single person that's supposed to give a shit. And so her and Max leave, and they're like kind of house hopping, just trying to find a place to stay. She ends up like walking Max around, and she sees Trent with this poodle and this lady. And Max is trying to get Trent's attention because, he loves Trent from when he was Molly. And he escapes from the grasp of CJ. She ends up breaking down crying. Trent says you can just stay in the guest room if you want. And she's like, I really don't want to be a bother. And then like they're like, yeah, how about we go to the park? And like the girlfriend, I can't remember her name, Lulu or something like that. Probably nothing close to that. She has the poodle in a stroller. And there's a fun line that Max is like, I guess that dog never learned how to walk. Because like, it was always carried by someone, always in a stroller, and being pushed by someone. And it was just great. And so, like, Trent's girlfriend continually makes comments about, well, CJ, she's like, oh, you're a dog walker. She's like, yeah, but music is my passion, my main thing. She's like, oh, but dog walking is your job, yes. And yeah, you could tell that there's not very much like between these two. And even Trent's like, yeah, she's a very jealous type. And so her and Trent, CJ and Trent are like sitting in the apartment together, and they're just kind of talking and stuff. And Max, because like Trent's been talking like, man, I'm just worn out, and I could already tell like, oh god, this is going to continue the cancer arc, which again was like my favorite part of the movie. As weird as that sounds. And so Trent is messing with Max, and Max smells the scent of cancer and does the cross-legged thing, and he's like, okay, now you owe me a treat because I smelled the smell. Because like dogs don't understand like that's a sickness, or at least like in this movie, like dogs don't understand like this means that this person has a very serious and dangerous disease. And so she's like, and so CJ, recognizing this thing, she's like, Trent, you should see a doctor. And he's like, okay, if you say so, like, just to ease your nerves, I'll do it. And then he tells them he has cancer. You don't really know where the cancer's at least I don't remember them saying where the cancer was located at. And so he's he's like, we found it early, and so immediately he tells, or CJ asks, have they talked about treatment options? And he said, well, luckily they caught it early. I can just start chemo, and they say that should kill the cancer. And the girlfriend is like, do we have to go to the hospital? Hospitals terrify me. And then he jokingly says, well, don't get cancer. And CJ kind of laughs, and she's like, what are you laughing at? And Trent tries to explain. He's like, it was a joke. And she's like, do you really find this as to be funny? And then she ends up leaving him because she doesn't want to be a nurse, which sadly happens more often than not. Quick little thing for you, for people that are starting to date or still looking for a date. Find someone who's willing to stay by you through thick and thin. I've had several girlfriends, and there's only, I'd say maybe 3 of them that would stick by me through cancer. Like if I had cancer, I'm not going to name names because I feel like they know who they are. Like they know who, like I know their personality, and I know like how dedicated they would be if we were in a relationship and then I had cancer. I can name 3 that I know would definitely stay through to the very end. And so Trent's going through cancer treatments, and it's a very somewhat realistic looking of like the stereotypical chemo treatments. And like it has Max's commentary all through it. Like Trent slept a lot. And eventually, and like he wore like clothes you usually wear outside. He's wearing inside all the time. talking about like scarves, coats, and stuff like that. And he ends up being cancer free. And so it goes through like they're walking through the park again, and she mentions, I keep getting text messages from Gloria. And Trent's like, well, you should see her. He's like, you helped me through cancer, I'll help you through Gloria. And she's like, you're a really, really good friend. And like you get the feeling she wants to say more, but she doesn't. And you could tell Trent wants her to say more, and she doesn't. And so she sees Gloria, and Gloria is just a like very emotional mess. And she's like, I've been sober for 9 months and 13 days, and I really want to be a part of your life. And CJ's like, I would really like to trust you, but I don't think I can right now. Which is a very realistic thing that happens. This movie is very, like, this movie stretches the truth a lot for, like, laughs and stuff like that, and for, like, plot convenience. But these are all, like, actual things that happen in lives. Like, a lot of lovers and stuff like that will leave someone when they have cancer because they don't know if they can handle that burden, or they don't want to handle that burden. Not necessarily whether they can or can't. They're not going to. The neglectful parent, whenever the parent wants to get back into kid's life, the kid's like, the kid's like, no, you weren't there for me when I needed you the most, and now you just think I'm just gonna open my arms. Like it's a very realistic thing. Now, granted, I've never experienced that, either of those things, but those are real things that can happen to people. So, Gloria gives CJ letters from her dad that her dad wrote to Gloria while she was pregnant. And then CJ writes a song through those letters. She plays it in front of a bar, and people loved it. It was a very beautiful song. I recommend watching the movie, or if like there's like a full version that comes out, I recommend getting that. So then Trent's like, hey, how about we go see your grandparents? So they go to the farm. Max is super happy because he's like, oh my god, it's the farm, it's the farm, it's the farm. I can smell Ethan, I can smell Hannah. And like Ethan's the one who answers the door, and he's like, well, here, how you doing, little fella? And it's like he's like loving on Ethan and all that stuff, and like they're very emotional moment, like when CJ sees her grandparents. The grandparents are like, CJ, you've gotten so big, and all that stuff. It's a very cute moment. And so like they're talking, she's looking through photo albums of her dad and her mom when they were younger. And so you get this moment like where Ethan's like, you're a boss dog, aren't you? And talking to Max, and Max like is like going wild, like, yeah, that's me. And like he even says, come on, Bailey. And Max hops out of CJ's arms and follows Ethan. And so CJ follows them. Ethan shows her like this ball trick that happened earlier in the movie whenever Max was Bailey. He would like throw the football in the air, get on his hands and knees, and Bailey would jump off his back and catch the ball. And Max did the same thing, but due to his difference of size, the deflated football just bounced off of his mouth because he's so small. And he's like, yeah, I don't know why, I don't know how, he said, but Bailey reincarnated. And so he's like, I think Bailey kept on reincarnating to protect you because that's what I told Bailey to do. And so it was like, God, it was just such a cute movie. And her and Trent, like, she basically just spills the beans. Like Max kept coming back to bring us back together. And so it's, she's like, I love you. He's like, I've loved you for years. And then they end up having a baby. Gloria's back in CJ's life, take help, loving on the grandchild and all that stuff. And Ethan passes away at the end of the movie. And it's really, really cute because he's on his deathbed. And, you see all of the family members, like, teary-eyed and all that stuff. And then it goes to little tiny Max being petted by, just with one hand, just being petted by Ethan. And, he had this moment like, Ethan has been there for me on my last moments several times. It's, it's only fair for me to do the same for her. And, she, and so, like, it goes on, and then, Max is, like, sleeping in this little bed, and Trent's like, hey, how's Max doing? CJ's like, he's just been laying here all day. And he's like, I knew I'm saying goodbye. But I wasn't sad. Like, he knew this was his final reincarnation. That this little tiny dog was his final moments of this life. Of all lives. And, he dies, and he's going through, like, for every reincarnation, he would run through this field and be reincarnated. And so he's running through the field, and it starts off as Max running through, and then he turned into Big Dog, and then he turned into Molly, and then he turned back into the Bailey in the beginning of the movie. And he's like, I've been Max, I've been Big Dog, I've been Molly, but my real name is Bailey. That's my name. And then you see Daniel Quaid at the end, and they're like running through the field together, and it's like, really, you had to get me to cry like one last time in this movie. And it was a wonderful experience. It was a beautiful movie, very well done, very funny, very cute. I recommend seeing it. It's just very cute. Well, that's all I have today, so please, if you like this video, comment, like, and subscribe. This is going to also be on Apple Podcasts under the Chibi Cast, Stevie Langa. And, so go over there and check that out. I also have on Apple News, if you go to TCG Gaming, that is TCG space gaming, I do have some game reviews going up. There will be more going up as time goes on, as I write them. I don't really have a schedule for it. I just kind of, whenever I do it, I do it. So yeah, go there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, follow me at FedoraMan1994. That is at FEDORAMAN 1994. And I hope you guys have an awesome day and a good night.